Take a moment and imagine this. What if clocks didn't exist? No time on your phone, no watch on your wrist, no clock on the wall. How would you know if it's early or late? If you're on time or already too late? For most of human history, people lived exactly like this. There were no seconds, no minutes, no hours. Yet one question ruled everything. When? When does the day begin? When does it end? When do we plant crops? When do we fight wars? When do we pray? Without knowing time, life could not be organized, and that need led humanity to one of its greatest inventions. There was no metal, no gears, no technology, only the sun, shadows, and human impatience. The clock you use today is the result of thousands of years of mistakes, experiments, and observation. This video is not just the story of a device. It is the story of humanity's attempt to tame time itself. And perhaps the most unsettling question of all is this: did we invent the clock, or did the clock invent us? Long before gears, before numbers, before clocks had hands, humanity measured time by looking up. The sun was the first clock. Ancient people noticed something simple yet powerful. As the sun moved across the sky, shadows moved with it. A stick placed in the ground cast a shadow that changed position throughout the day. In the morning, it was long. At noon, it was short. By evening, it stretched again. This was not an invention at first. It was an observation. Around 3,500 BCE, early civilizations began turning this observation into a tool. Simple structures were built, stones were arranged, marks were placed on the ground. Thus, the sundial was born. The sundial allowed people to divide the day into parts, not hours as we know them today, but moments of meaning. Time to work, time to rest, time to pray. Civilizations like ancient Egypt, Mesopotamia, and China relied on the sun to organize daily life. But the sun, as powerful as it was, had its limits. When clouds covered the sky, time disappeared. And when night arrived, the clock stopped completely. The sun taught humanity how time could be measured, but it also revealed that a better solution was needed. And so the search continued. The sundial showed people time, but it could not control it. When night fell, the shadow disappeared. When clouds covered the sky, time vanished. Humanity needed something more reliable, and attention turned to flowing water. Ancient people realized that water never stops. It flows, and as it flows, it mirrors the passage of time. This idea led to the creation of the water clock. Water slowly dripped from one container into another. As the level changed, time passed. Water clocks were used in ancient Egypt, Babylon, Greece, and China. Their greatest advantage was simple. They worked at night. Time was no longer tied only to the sun, but the water clock was far from perfect. In heat, water flowed faster. In cold, it slowed down. The same clock could measure time differently on different days. Humanity could measure time, but still could not fully master it. The water clock taught one important lesson. Time is not something that appears and disappears like a shadow. It is something that flows. And to measure it precisely, a better solution was still needed. So time continued to flow. The water clock could measure time at night, but it was still unreliable. Humanity needed something simpler, yet more consistent. The answer was sand. Sand flows. It does not stop. And under the same conditions, it flows at a steady rate. Two glass chambers, a narrow passage in between, sand falling from top to bottom. Thus, the sand clock, or hourglass, was born. Its greatest strength was stability. It was less affected by temperature. It worked at night, and it functioned even while moving. That is why the sand clock became essential for sailors. Even as waves shook the ship, the sand continued to fall. The sand clock did not measure long periods of time. Instead, it measured fixed intervals: 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 1 hour. This made it ideal for tasks that required precision. But the sand clock had a limit. When the sand ran out, time stopped. Someone had to turn it over again. Humanity could now measure time, but still could not automate it. The sand clock taught a powerful lesson. Time is like sand slipping through your fingers. You cannot hold it, you cannot stop it, and you can never get it back. And so, time continued to slip away. Sand flowed, water dripped, but time still did not run on its own. Humans had to flip the hourglass. They had to watch the water. Time still depended on attention. And then something changed. At some point, humanity stopped trying to observe time and decided to control it. The true turning point came during the Middle Ages. Around the 13th century, the first mechanical clocks appeared. These clocks no longer relied on the sun. They did not need water. They were not bound to sand. They worked by themselves. At the heart of the mechanical clock were gears and weights. Heavy weights slowly fell, turning gears at a steady rhythm. Each movement triggered the next. For the first time, time flowed in a constant mechanical pace. These clocks did not enter homes at first. They were placed high in church towers. Large bells rang out, hours were announced, and for the first time in history, entire cities shared the same time. This was a revolutionary moment. Time was no longer personal. It became public order. People no longer woke up with sunrise, but with the sound of bells. Work time appeared, prayer time appeared, market time, punishment time. The mechanical clock was more than a tool. It created discipline. Time was divided, scheduled, measured, and with that, time slipped from the hands of nature into the hands of humanity. But this power came at a cost. Time was no longer a quiet river. It became something to chase, to track, to obey. The mechanical clock gave humans control over time, but it also made humans servants of the clock, and history never turned back. Humans did not invent time. Time has always existed, long before language, long before memory, long before history itself. What humans invented was not time, but the ability to measure it, divide it, and attempt to control it. At first, we simply looked up. We followed the sun across the sky. We watched shadows stretch and shrink. Day turned into night. Night returned to day. Time was something we observed, not something we chased. Then we learned to capture it. Water flowed from one vessel to another, marking moments as it fell. Sand slipped grain by grain, each drop, each grain, a reminder that nothing stands still. And finally, gears began to turn. Metal replaced nature. Rhythm replaced flow. As clocks evolved, life began to change. Days became organized. Moments were scheduled. Hours were divided, and seconds were counted. Life became faster. Time was no longer the quiet rhythm of the natural world. It became a force, announced by bells, enforced by calendars, measured by deadlines, and chased by people everywhere. The clock gave us precision. It gave us discipline. It gave us progress. It allowed cities to rise, machines to work in harmony, and societies to function as one. But it also gave us pressure. We stopped asking how the day feels and started asking how much time is left. We no longer say, "There is time." We say, "There is no time." Once, humans observed time. Today, time observes humans. It watches us rush. It watches us hurry. It watches us measure our lives in hours, in minutes, in moments that slip away unnoticed. Perhaps the problem is not the clock itself. Perhaps the problem is how we choose to live by it. Because a clock does not tell us what matters. It does not tell us what is meaningful. It only measures the value of time, how it is spent, how it is felt, and how it is remembered. That part has always been up to us. And maybe this is the most important lesson of all. Time can be measured, it can be divided, it can be tracked, but it can never be reclaimed.